Hello there. It's been quite a while since I've done this, so it's my opportunity to speak about things that's been going on for me. And it really begins for me last year. 2022 is the year as I devoted myself utterly to mantra work, working with mantras, with Vedic mantras, with Sanskrit mantras, chanting them, singing them. And I began with one every day, and I added a second one. I then had a lucid dream about halfway through the year, which a very good friend of mine said, "That's your third mantra." So I began that. And just days after that one, I came across my fourth one randomly on YouTube. And this has propelled me into an extraordinary journey. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to light the fire and speak a little bit about what I've been going through. What a journey it's been. I had no idea when I started these mantras just how far it would take me. They say that magic is 90% trash removal, and it's really by that primary criterion that I can experience mantras as magic, because what's happened for me is things from the past have come up over and over again, and it's been like working with a plant medicine. These events from the past have come in waves, and quite early on in 2022 this became a really all-consuming process, as I was literally having these old events burnt out to me. And it followed the same pattern, which is I'd have a memory of something, become aware of something I wasn't doing before. I'd work with that and release it. And I did manage to do a retreat in May that year, and that was the last event I was really capable of managing, but I did put myself forward, and I held an event for the summer solstice. I invited people from the previous two retreats to come along and enjoy and experience Glastonbury, the tour and all the rest of it. Had a wonderful time, but I was really pushing the edges of what I was capable of to do that event. And after that I did one more very, very small event just for a small number of people, and then that was it. That was in July. So I then went into a very, very intensely inward time, and this process of events coming up continued, and it extended out to not just things that I'd done or things that had been done to me, but actually things I hadn't done, and the implications of the consequences of that. And each time what I was doing is I was accepting whatever memory came up, experiencing it, reliving it, and moving on. And I gradually became less and less capable of communicating with people, and became more and more inward, until I spent pretty much the whole of autumn and winter up to the winter solstice experiencing a considerable amount of isolation, which was increased even more so on the 2nd of September, when the person I'd been living with for more than 5 years chose to move out of the home that we created together. And so really since the 2nd of September I've had even more opportunity for this inner work, even more time on my own to process, for the experiences and memories to come up, to feel them, to be present, and then to allow them to be released. And that's what I've been doing. And there's a particular time of year that I find really tough going. And it's a time of year that begins, it really is after the winter solstice and around about the 21st of December, and it goes through until around about the new year. Now, there's a time of year that's very popular with many people, and it's called Christmas. I've always been very uneasy during Christmas and never knew why. When I was 19 and I was working in medical pathology in the hospital in Norfolk, I came across a woman called Jackie. I remember her so well, and we walked home after our shift one day, and she shared to me that she doesn't ever do Christmas. We never discussed why. I was listening, she was speaking, but it made a deeply profound impact on me at the time. And since then I've experienced a number of Christmases completely on my own in total isolation, and it always feels like a relief. I've never been able to understand why. Now the fire is coming on beautifully, so I just want to move the camera and let's just give the focus to the fire. There we are. So one of the reasons I want to show you the fire is a really powerful shamanic tool to look at it in a mechanistic, human-centric point of view. From a shamanic point of view, a fire is a spirit, and actually every single fire that burns is part of the universal spirit of fire. So on this planet Earth, at any one time there are always many fires burning. Fires get lit, fires go out, but the spirit of fire is present in every single one of them. The fire is a wonderful spirit to work with for releasing. So I'm now working with the releasing energies of this fire to speak about what I'm going to say next. So with this uneasiness about Christmas, which I'd had all my life, never knew why, not a clue. In the autumn of 2021, I came across someone who was on one of these alternative platforms, and she was speaking about things that happened to her when she was a child, early teens in fact, and she spoke about something I'd never heard of before, and she called it the Satanist's calendar. And I had absolutely no idea what was meant by this. But I was aware you get all these different kind of people. You've got born again Christians, you've got people from various religious faiths, you've got black magicians, I was aware of all this, but Satanists, well. So she explained that there are particular key dates on this calendar, and one of them is Christmas time. And she explained that at Christmas time, a lot of children go missing. And this is not something that's been happening recently. This has been going on since, the phrase really would be, time immemorial. So since time immemorial, there have been very, very powerful, wealthy people that have had children procured for them. I don't want to say any more than that, because it's a very uncomfortable subject for me. But I do need to talk about it in the way that I am doing. So I finally understood when I listened to what this woman was saying. Okay, I'm a deeply empathic person. In fact, I did a training called the Mastering of the Warrior Angels back in the late 1990s, where what we did was about 13 of us, and we had 2 facilitators. We needed 2 facilitators because what we were doing is every 2 months we would get together for a very long weekend, 4-night stay, and we would share in a circle, sacred circle, the experiences for us that we'd never been able to dare to share with anybody else before. It was deeply moving, and the very first person to speak, God, I bless him for his honesty, he spoke about his secret hidden desires to be a stalker and to be a torturer. And this was 10 minutes into the very first weekend. We gathered in a circle. No one said a word. 10 minutes later, this guy starts talking about this stuff. Certainly freaked me out. I'm sure it must have had a really big effect on everyone there. Oh my goodness me. Because this circle, this group, the Warrior Angels, was for the people who dared to share the things that no one ever dares to talk about. And that set the ball rolling. And someone else spoke about being gang raped as a student and her boyfriend being held down and being forced to watch it. And another person spoke about what happened to her as a child, and it went on, and it went on. And we met for a year, and it was an extraordinary experience, I'm sure you can imagine. So much came up, so much got released. And what we were doing is bringing all the parts of us that had been disowned, that had been suppressed, that had been marginalised and been denied. So this all links in. So what I realised about this whole thing about Christmas is, okay, I'm a deeply empathic person. Well, I need to say a little bit more about this mustering of the Warrior Angels, because what actually happened, I was living in a community at the time in northeast Lancashire, 11 adults, 7 children, intentional community. I was living in a caravan at the time, and after one of these Warrior Angel sessions, after I had been doing a lot of releasing in the group, sharing, I came back to my community and I went to visit each member of my community, and words started to come out of my mouth and I had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. Time for the log. I started to talk about babies, and I said, oh, the poor babies. Oh, the poor babies. I'm sure everyone in the community must have thought I completely lost it at this point. He's going off doing his weird weekends and he's talking about the poor babies. I didn't know what I meant. I had no idea what I was referring to, because a person who's experienced really severe multiple traumas in childhood, we have this thing called compartmentalization and splitting. Everything that's unbearable gets put into a compartment, especially when you're a child. And then these compartments are locked up until you reach a certain age when you're ready to handle it all, which had already happened to me before the Warrior Angels. These compartments start to bleed into one another, and they all start to bleed into the daily life. And this was a classic case of a big bleed. I was uttering something which made no sense to me. The poor babies. The only thing I knew about to do with babies is I used to have a job. I used to be a medical scientific officer in medical pathology in this hospital in Norfolk. And one of my jobs, I used to be the baby bleeder. So I wouldn't be doing this every day, but it would be a job I would do on a regular basis. And I'd go out into the wards with these little vials and tubes and little glass capillary tubes. And these little things called lancets. Lancets are sterile, little bits of metal with a point on the end. And my job was to go into the wards and go to the selected babies. I had forms for them, and I used to stab their heels with a lancet and collect a small amount of their blood. Now, it used to be a relief when the baby cried and screamed when this happened, and that was the test we would do for jaundice. And in fact, those babies I felt relieved about, because I knew that their prognosis of survival was high. The ones that really used to put the fear of God into me were the ones that I would go to and I would stab their heels to collect a much smaller amount of blood in the capillary tube. They were the ones that had respiratory distress and were likely to die from their inability to breathe and get oxygen into their body. Not an easy job, but someone had to do it. But this all links in. Everything links in. So what happens in the Christmas time? Lots of children disappear and they get used for the things that are done to them. Don't want to say any more about it. And with my own childhood experiences, and with finally getting the principal clinical psychologist of the team in Devon to work with me on the NHS to deal with and reveal all these things that had happened to me as a child. Some real progress got made. And there's something that came up in that to do with something that I was made to do as a child, which involved babies. And this thing that I've been doing in the 1990s, wandering around to members of the community saying, oh, the poor babies, the poor babies, the poor babies. That was the very isolated event, and I didn't even until last night connect that completely isolated experience with what I went through as a child. And what the psychologist helped me to realise is that one of the reasons I had been having such difficulty was because I was carrying a lot of shame. And it was shame to do with the stuff that had happened when I was a child, to do with sexual abuse and all the rest of this. And it all linked in. So what I then found myself doing, I'm a member of a men's circle in Glastonbury, and I was along there last Thursday, only 4 days ago. And finally, after all these years, I'd found a venue, a circle, another place where I could share. I wasn't able to share about any of this stuff in the Warrior Angels because I didn't have the pieces of the puzzle put together until I worked with the psychologist. And she got me to understand that I was carrying a great deal of shame because I was used by the people that were doing what they're doing to get me to help them with what they were doing with these babies. So, all really disturbing stuff. So I, for the first time, really speak it all out in front of a group. And it's a massively distressing thing to do, and I absolutely didn't want to do it, but I knew I needed to do it. So this is what this film is about, because I have a friend I love very much, and this friend has the extraordinary capacity for great, relentless, brutal and uncompromising honesty, self-honesty. And I admire that quality. So what I've been realising in this time between the winter solstice and the New Year time is, as a clinical psychologist with infinite kindness and patience has revealed to me, carrying a lot of shame, aren't you? I had no idea. Well, I discovered that's true. I've been carrying a lot of shame. So what's been going on for me in 2022 is all these events coming up, experiencing them, releasing them, letting them go into the energy of the fire. I've often been doing this work sitting here by the fire, and by doing all this releasing and clearing, it literally has prepared me for 2023. And it was a really dark time of year for me with this stuff coming up. And there's a particularly wonderful thing that happened for me on Christmas, because with the picture I've already given you can understand that it's not an easy time for me. Empathy, feeling the pain of others. And that was what was going on when I was going around the community, being consciously aware of the pain of the babies. So it all came together. It all came together. And I realised all these pieces of the puzzle fit together, and the shame that I was carrying. And I was sharing this in the group. It's a very powerful thing to do, to share in a group. And it's really important you feel safe enough. We've been meeting since October. It was now very, very early January. Just possible to do so. And there's something about things that have been hidden being released and shared in a safe space. It's very therapeutic, very healing. And the morning after that night of sharing with the men's circle, I was up really early like I am today. I went downstairs about 6, and by 6:30 I was given an instruction. This healing protocol I've been pioneering all last year. I got selected people. I obviously had the first experience myself, but it was only very much a partial thing because I hadn't added all the extra modalities that go along with it. Well, Friday morning, gosh, it's only 3 days ago, I did the full protocol, and I began with the floral bath. I've made films about the floral bath. They're in my back catalogue. It's an extremely powerful magical practice that comes from Central and South America. It comes from my Amazonian shamanic training lineage, from my teacher's teacher, and all the way back. The floral bath is something you use. It's a really powerful process when you've got some really big work to do. So I began with the floral bath. I also worked with the Ganesh mantra for the removal of all obstacles. And I remained in the floral bath, which is a bath which I have a lot of Epsom salts in as well, which is extremely cleansing and detoxing as well. And I stayed in the bath, and it is another practice which I'm not going to talk about yet, which is also extraordinarily powerful, which is very, very releasing. And someone is coming for the advanced course soon, and they're going to experience this too. And after that I did the Chamunda mantra for victory. And after that the medicine was very, very strong in me. So I was working with a combination of one of the plants from the brown medicine called Banisteriopsis carpi, but a very special formulation, which actually it's not been heat extracted in hot water, simmering water as normal. It's actually a cold water extraction, so even more of the magical properties are present in it. So I combined that together with one of our good friends, the fungi, which people are very familiar with, which people microdose with. So those two were now working very strongly. I was in the bath, I'd done all these releasing practices, I'd done an invocation practice, I'd done all these practices, and feeling the medicine very strongly. So very slowly got out of the bath, patted myself dry, which is the protocol when you're working with the floral bath. And I then walked into the bedroom, got into bed, having dried myself off, and I lay there. And I got taken on an extraordinary journey, which is what happened previously. It's only my second time doing this work, and it was, there were many visions, many visions, including some visions of the future, including a vision of the next retreat. Very powerful stuff. Lots of really personal things came up. A personal connection with a person I've strong feelings for. Lots and lots of things. And while these visions were coming up, I knew that the primary purpose of the visions is to entertain me while all the deep healing is being done. This is my message about working with the fungi with healing. We're working with plant medicines as well. These visions, they're very entertaining, they're great, they're wonderful, but actually it's the healing that's the important thing. I was having massive healing going on. So this whole process began around 7 AM while it was still dark, and it continued through till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But I'd get up at 11 and go and do some things. But what I really want to share with you is the results of this extraordinary practice, because it's going to be the main event on the first night of the retreat, by the way, as well. I keep referring to the retreat. There was no plans to do a retreat this year, because how I've been feeling throughout the autumn and through the time from the winter solstice to just after the New Year's and just a few days ago, I've been feeling desperately tired, exhausted, scarcely enough energy to keep the house clean, wash the dishes, do the basic things, get in the wood, go get the water, the basic things I do for my life. Scarcely enough energy to do these things because I have felt such a big, powerful stagnation And the stagnation is because I need to speak my truth. And actually, when I was in the men's circle, I spoke my truth. As I'm speaking to you now, I'm speaking my truth. I've discovered that for this year, for my very survival, and for my healing, and for my reconnection with my full personal power, it's all about relentless self-honesty and speaking my truth. This is what I need to do. This is my medicine. And this wonderful protocol with the carpy and the mushrooms really kick-started things to such an extent that I found myself on that afternoon outside chopping vast quantities of wood, organising things, cleaning, sorting loads of things out. And then that evening I took the steps and I got in contact with the person I need to speak to about hiring the venue, and got in contact with a very good friend who's been waiting for me to reach this point in my healing journey. And there's a retreat, and it's all come together. And it's the last weekend in February. And it's not like any of the other retreats I've ever done, because I'm going to be working with this brand new protocol on the Friday. Saturday's going to be as usual, and the Sunday's going to be completely different as well. Very excited about this. Most of all, excited to have my energy returning to me and to feel that I'm here to do these things. And finally, I've got the energy to do it. So I made a film recently about responsibility. And what I mean by that, definition of responsibility is the ability to respond. I'm the kind of person that works best when he's given something to do, when he's given an invitation. When I'm invited to do something and I've got enough energy, I step up and I do it. And that's what's happening. I am so relieved, so excited, so pleased to finally have the energy to do my work, to do what I'm here to do, to fulfill my soul's purpose, which is to help and assist people in their awakening times. And a technical term that the people at the community in Tennessee in America called the farm created for this, they call it spiritual midwifery. That's what I am, according to their definition. I'm a spiritual midwife. I help people to wake up. It's my soul's purpose. I'm so grateful for my wonderful home, for all the people in my life that I love, for the wonderful, beautiful energy of the Spirit of Fire. Thank you so much, Spirit of Fire. I feel like that's what I needed to say, and thank you ever so much for listening. I do appreciate you being in my life, all you people that are the subscribers. I never say this, but if anyone ever wants to do these conventional things that people apparently do, like liking and subscribing, and apparently if you subscribe and you don't activate notifications, you won't get told about the film. So you are invited to subscribe, activate notifications, like all those things, and always most welcome to leave any comments. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you give by watching me on my journey. All the love to you. All the love to you. All the love to you.